Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel, and it might be Sunday afternoon. You'd expect things maybe to be quiet, but no, we're here with Celtic transfer talk. We've got a lot to catch up on, including a new target for the club to replace Nicholas Kühn. So bear with me, we're going to try and get into all of those details in quick a fashion as possible, because it's Sunday, there's a Grand Prix on, there's things to be done. I'm sure you cannot be bothered listening to me, so let's get into that. If you haven't already, please make sure to hit like and subscribe. It would be much appreciated. Thank you to everybody who tuned in Friday night for our first watch along of the pre-season friendlies. We'll be back live on Tuesday night for the friendly against Cork City, so be there, or be square. And until then, we'll talk about whatever's in the news, and that starts with the story this afternoon, which has linked Celtic with a fresh winger target upon Nicholas Kühn's departure. Because these were the headlines last night and into this morning that Celtic are eyeing another Rapid Vienna star as the immediate Nicholas Kühn replacement after his standout season in the Austrian Bundesliga. Of course, the bells should be ringing in your head, the bells of familiar names. Austria, Rapid Vienna. That is exactly where we signed Nicholas Kühn, and it looks as though Celtic could be going back to the well for more and trying to find his replacement. This was the story that Celtic are eyeing up Rapid Vienna winger Isaac Jansen. Brendan Rodgers is on the hunt for a new wide man upon Nicholas Kühn's £17 million exit, and the understanding is that the £3 million rated Swedish winger is one of the targets on Celtic's radar after an impressive campaign in Austria. He's been the standout in the Austrian Bundesliga over the past 18 months, and he's now on the radar of Lazio, Fiorentina and Paris FC, and Celtic are now the fresh name, the latest name to join that list. So could this be an easy replacement for Nicholas Kühn, going back to where we signed him from, and quite literally signing the Nicholas Kühn replacement to be the Nicholas Kühn replacement? Last season, he scored 9 goals and assisted 6, in which was a very good campaign for him across the Austrian Bundesliga and the Europa Conference League as well, or the UEFA Conference League as well. He had a pretty good campaign, and of course, as we said, teams are looking at him as a potential option this summer. Celtic now in that race. He looks a good player. Swedish under-21 international, only 23 years of age, with a very high ceiling. Rapid Vienna took a very honest punt on him at the 11th hour in signing him as a replacement for Nicholas Kühn, and it worked out pretty well. Because the story about him signing for Rapid Vienna is quite an interesting one. It was one that was done purely on data. Now, you know me, I'm an old school football fan. I'm not so much into the data-driven side of things, but it has become such a substantial part of football, you would be naive to say that it doesn't play its part. Well, it was data that made the signing happen. They looked for players, and he appeared in a top 3 search when they were looking for things in terms of dribbling and taking on players. He came up in a top 3. They've seen a lot of videos. They didn't get time to scout him in person, and they decided to trust the data, and it worked out pretty well because they signed him for only £200,000. They've already rejected a bid worth £1 million for the player in the past 6 months, and now they rate him at more than £3 million. So for a £200,000 punt driven by data to then being one of the top players in the Austrian Bundesliga, it's worked out very, very well, and I think they're accepting of the fact he will probably move on this window after only 18 months with the club. So, I mean, they've already told us what he excels at, and that is dribbling and taking on players. A very brave right winger option who likes to get down that line and beating his man. Not too fond of the backwards pass, and I'm sure that's what a lot of people want to hear about when we talk about wingers at Celtic. We want to see the excitement of a man confident to take on his fullback, and that seems to be the case with this guy here. So, could Isaac Jansen be one of Celtic's next signings? Well, I wouldn't say we're that far down the line yet. Keep in mind, it is only a target. It's certainly one to keep an eye on in the coming days to see if any development comes from the story. Will Celtic be ushered into a quicker process with the interest out there already? Maybe so, but we've heard a number of targets that the club are looking at when it comes to wingers. Sondre or Yaseta, Michel-Ange Balikwisha, who's on the other side of the pitch, but we know he is somebody the club are still actively trying to sign. And there's been plenty of other wingers linked with the club as well in this window. So keep in mind, he is emerged as a target. There has been no such word about a bid yet or Celtic going in to make it happen. He is one of many targets. So infancy right now. That's what this story is. It's in its infancy. But it's something to keep a keen eye on over these next few days. £3 million. Looks a good player. Could be a smart signing. And here, if he comes over for Rapid Vienna and plays anywhere near the level Nicholas Kühn did, then of course he'd be good enough. I brought up the name Michel-Ange Balikwisha a moment ago, and we do have an update in regard to the situation with him. Expect some form of conclusion to that deal in the coming days, at least this week, because Antwerp want to make it happen. This was a report that came out from Belgium this week that Antwerp are looking for a speedy conclusion to the move, or for the move, so that they can cash in on Michel-Ange Balikwisha. So they remain in talks with Celtic over that transfer. Balikwisha remains where he is. He wants the move. Nothing has changed on the player's side of things. Antwerp do want to sell him. Celtic want to sign him. It's been a long-standing interest in Michel-Ange Balikwisha. We know that there has been a little bit of a fickle situation emerging on the price tag. We've heard that they're willing to lower it down to roughly £4.5 million. I'd imagine they might need to drop that again for Celtic to cash in, but they want a speedy conclusion to the situation. I think we're going to hear this week on either side of that deal whether it will happen or it won't happen, but I'm still fairly confident that this is a transfer that will happen and he'll become a Celtic player. I've said it all window. It all just comes down to Celtic at this point, I think. If they can give Antwerp what they want, the player's ready to go, Antwerp they're ready to sell. Hopefully we find out this week. You all know by now, but Celtic officially confirmed the departure of Mike Neolski last night. His move to Hanover is complete. He joins on loan capacity to begin with, but there is an option to buy in the deal, which means at the end of the season, if he plays well enough, Hanover can trigger it, make him a permanent player at their club. I wish him the best of luck with his move. One that just never worked out here. However, lads, look, listen, I agree with you. I agree with you. He should have had more of a chance. I think he's better than Liam Scales. I think he's better than a few others. I would have loved to see more of him, but let it go. He's gone, and that's that. And listen, I think if Mike Neolski played the amount of football that Liam Scales played, I think we would have maybe seen eventually down the line why Rodgers didn't fancy him. He wasn't perfect. He was good, and I'm gutted to see him go. But get over it. He's away. Why are we all crying about it? We'll move on like we do with it. We've seen plenty of better players move on. Yeah, we'll see how he gets on at Hanover. Test the real quality of him when he's playing regularly. And if Celtic look back on this, having to, punch themselves over how they handled it, so be it. But listen, it's done. The last transfer-related story to dance over today is in relation to new signing Hayato Inamura. Now, we've all seen Brendan Rodgers' comments by now, which makes this a bit of a funny situation. After the game against Queen's Park on Friday, he was questioned about the signing of Hayato Inamura, and he said that he won't be part of the first team. He's a part of an investment for the club, so they need to see where he is as a young player and whether he stays with the squad or whether he has to go out on loan, which basically says to me that Brendan is going to loan him out. It looks as though that's probably going to have to happen. And I'm not stunned, but there's so many people getting angry about this, and I've seen podcast clips of people pishing their frillies. Listen, it was 250 grand, right? If it doesn't work, it doesn't work. Who cares? We've not spent millions on the boy. And see if it does work, then it's been a really smart investment. Now, I know the scope for that to work out is going to take time, and there's probably a slim chance it does. It looks as though his chances are going to be very few and far between unless he hits the ground running in a loan move. But there's so many people getting actively angry about this, and I just don't get it. Calm down. What is happening to us as a support to become so bitter? We've gone through so much joy at this football club, and people are getting angry at the most trivial things. It's clear that this wasn't a Rodgers signing, and I think the only worrying aspect of it is it feels like the sort of signing that indicates that bad news could be coming on the Rodgers front, but I'm not going to get drawn into all of that yet. These are the type of signings football clubs make all over the world. Development type signings. They hedge their bets on a cheap young player that maybe it'll work out, and if it doesn't, it doesn't. And I don't think any fans around the world take things as bitterly as ours do sometimes. Calm down, right? He goes out on loan, best of luck to him. Doesn't go out on loan, we'll see what happens. But good God almighty, just calm yourself. To end off with some positivity, we got a really good update on the fitness situation of Cameron Carter-Vickers and Rio Hitati. Of course, speculation was flying around Cameron Carter-Vickers and his situation following rumours that he was in for surgery over the summer. Brendan Rodgers confirmed that was the case, but he won't be out for a long time. In fact, here were Rodgers' exact words about the situation. Cameron had some issues around the end of last season. We decided it was really important for him that he needed to get the operation. We knew the recovery time would mean he'd miss a week, but he's back working again, and hopefully he'll be ready for the next few weeks. So Cameron Carter-Vickers not going to be out for a lengthy amount of time. If anything, he'll miss maybe the first week or two of the season, but we should have him back, and if he misses maybe the European qualifier, that would be a shame, but hopefully we'll have him back by then. Yeah, we'll wait for more updates in regards to that. Rio Hitati, he said that with Rio, it was a shame for him. He had a few extra days, but he'll come back and he'll be fine. So Rio Hitati, we should expect to see back at training, full training, and in the matchday squads for the friendlies very soon. So good news round there. Nothing to get too overly concerned about. It's looking nice. Right then, that does it for today. If you've enjoyed, make sure to hit like and subscribe. And guys, can we be positive? Good God almighty. Off the back of winning a double. Be positive. Hey, listen, if it makes or breaks your day, Rangers are getting beat as I record this, for goodness sake. But be positive, man. And there's enough to be worried about in this world and to moan about. Celtic doesn't need to be added to that. Take your bitterness elsewhere. I feel like I'm lecturing you or something, and I don't mean to come across like that, but my God, it's getting painful opening up these social media apps to just see people moaning about the most trivial things. God almighty. Right, sorry, rant over. Like and subscribe. We're back tomorrow. I'll see you all next time.